Hello to everyone. Thank you all for joining me at this time. My name is Shavi Zane, and I'm coming on to bring a discussion to you all in regards to some things that came to me both when I woke up this morning. I had a lot of uploads that came in, and also when I ended up going back to sleep after awakening, I also had a dream, a very short dream that I want to tell you about. But first, I want to start off by telling you all thank you so much for all of the support that you all gave me in regards to my last video where I was speaking about speaking out in regards to my truth and those things that took place towards me in my childhood. I appreciate the beautiful support that you all gave me. It was very uplifting and very motivating for me to keep going and to not have any regrets. Because I will say that the next morning when I woke up, I was like, oh my goodness, did I really just do it? But I had to check myself because I was starting to create a false illusion in my own mind in regards to that. And I had to step into the reality, which was I have a lot of people who really support me and who support people like me who have gone through those types of things. But we continue to rise, we continue to get stronger, and we continue down our spiritual path and towards our divine purpose to help balance out the energy of humanity by by coming forward and speaking our truth and for being the most authentic versions of ourselves. So I also want to give a shout out to a few people who sent me some beautiful donations. I want to start doing that to show you all my love and appreciation. To Mrs. Priest, I thank you very much for your beautiful donation. To Mrs. Julian, thank you so much for your donation. To Mr. Coleman, thank you for your donation. I appreciate you. And to Mrs. Gonzalez, I appreciate all of you for your beautiful donations and your support. So let me get right into it, y'all. So I woke up out of my sleep this morning and I had a bunch of downloads coming in, but I want to first discuss the dream that I had right after that, okay? So I went to sleep, and in the dream I was outside laying in the grass, okay? I was sun gazing, laying in the grass, looking around. There was so many beautiful trees, and I had there was a male that was laying in the grass next to me, but I guess he might have been my divine masculine. He might have been my friend. I don't know who he was. I never saw him before until I was in my dream. And I watched a iguana crawl up on him. And so, I just thought that was the best thing. Like, wow, we're connecting with the animals. The next thing I know, a blue jay flew over and it landed on my lap, okay? While I was laying down, face up towards the sky, it landed on my lap. And there were other people that started walking around. Now, this blue jay, though, had the face of a celebrity, which I won't mention her name, but it had the face of a celebrity, but the body of a blue jay. I didn't care about the face of the celebrity. All I thought about was, I need to take a picture of this blue jay. So while I was pulling my phone out, I was thinking, please don't let this bird fly away while I'm looking for my phone. And the bird spoke to me, and it said, the message that you're being called to speak is only being given to you. And it told me that it was being given to me because the people that was around me was more focused on the face that the bird had versus the symbolic meaning of the bird itself. And so this is why the bird came to tell me that I had a different perception of what was happening. And so this is why I was being given the assignment to bring certain messages forward. So the bird stayed there long enough for me to take pictures. I took like 5 pictures, but I did it in a way where I angled the camera in a way where I was trying to avoid the face of the celebrity. And then after that, the bird flew away and I woke up. Okay. So prior to having that dream, I had woken up to a lot of downloads. And the specific download that came to me was in regards to our mind, okay? And how the alternative reality is created through us. Now, what do I mean by this? So the analogy that was given to me was in regards to a man who might choose, or any man, a man or a woman who might choose to ride a bike as their vehicle of choice versus a car, motorcycle, truck, whatever you might want to name it, okay? And I heard that man that chooses to take that route may do it because there's a sense of freedom that he feels. He's able to connect with nature. He's able to, get outside, get fresh air. He's able to exercise. He's able to get fit, and he doesn't feel enclosed into a space, okay? And so the analogy was that same man has created his own reality through his experience and his desires in life. Because most people would not choose that route. Okay, most people choose to ride in a car because they feel like you get there faster, and maybe, society will be more accepting of that, especially as a man. If you ride in a bike, you might have less women that are attracted to you because they're more focused on the material value of the car that you drive than the reason why you're riding a bike. And this is just what came to me, okay? And also, that man who has chosen to ride the bike to work or just throughout his daily life, he's created this reality for himself that he's comfortable with. But he also have those who are on the opposite end of that, who either are vocal about their issues with him riding a bike, or they are quiet about it, but they still have the thoughts in their mind in regards to their opposition to him riding a bike. So those who are in opposition might say things like, he's broke, he's cheap, he doesn't have anything, or he's less attractive because he doesn't have a bike, or he's less desirable, he's not able to provide, all of these different things, right? But they are not his reality until he begins to think about the opinion of others. This is going to lead to a whole lot, y'all, so please just bear with me. This is what came to me. And so that man who rides the bike, the moment that he begins to think about the perception of others, and he begins to focus in on it, and he begins to feel a certain type of way through his emotions, then it's not until then that it becomes, he shifts his reality, and suddenly he shifts his perspective of riding a bike. Because now he's more focused in on other people's opinion, other people's reality, or their desire of what his reality should be. Now he has included it. He has accepted it into his thought process, whereas before he did not care. But for some reason, the energy shifted once he began to focus in on the potential thoughts of others who had not spoken it. Maybe his intuition would say, based on the way that they looked at him, or based on the fact that he's not able to get certain people to date him, or based on what family or friends have said to him in regards to him needing a car, then suddenly his reality shifts because he has accepted their thoughts into his reality. And in that moment, once he puts more of his emotions and his thoughts into that, then suddenly his reality of riding a bike shifts into the reality that they created for him. And what does he end up doing? He goes and he buys a car. Okay, that's what was shown to me. That was what I was told when I woke up out of my sleep. That's what I was told. Okay, so this is leading me to where we are today. Right now, as you all know, we are in the age of Aquarius. Okay, we've come out of the age of Pisces. Okay, coming out of the age of Pisces. Okay, I want to be able to put all of this together where it makes sense. So in terms of my dream about the blue jay, I feel like that relates to the message that I'm bringing forward today, because it's all about the perception of the person. On one end, you had me, and then you had all of those people who were around me, who were more focused in on the face of the blue jay, which was that of a celebrity. They was in awe of the face of the celebrity, whereas I was in awe of the symbolic meaning of the blue jay coming to me. I didn't care about the face of the celebrity. I wanted to relish in on the experience of having a blue jay come to me and sit on my lap, and to also speak a message directly to me. And so we're starting to see that it's very clear that the majority will be focused in on those things that are more in the more ego based, okay? Because being, captured by a celebrity is more ego based, versus the symbolic and the spiritual meaning of a blue jay coming and sitting on your lap. Not everybody is going to see it from that perspective. And so I feel that that message was given to me in my dreams to show me that, yes, there is a group of us that are awakening to the fact that we are stepping out of our ego. We're stepping out of materialism. We're stepping out of all of those things that society deems as being high status or something that we should be more focused in on. And we're starting to pay attention to those things that most people would bypass. Most people would probably not think two things about, or most people, if a blue jay would have came to them, they probably would have got up and ran. Okay, and that's sad, but it's just the truth, because those are the people who are not connected to nature in that way. Okay, and so that disconnect from nature is equivalent to a disconnect from self. So now this is going to take me into speaking on, I got so many different notes here, y'all. I'm going to try to make this in a way where it makes sense. Now, this is going to be a long message. So if y'all stick around, then I appreciate you. If not, then take what you need and leave the rest for whoever needs it. And so where I started off was in regards to creation. Okay. I was led to the way that we came to be in terms of the Most High creating us through his thoughts. Okay. The Most High creating us through his thoughts. Okay. And so we are a direct reflection of the Most High, those who are children of the Most High, those who are the chosen of the Most High. We are a direct reflection of the abilities that the Most High possesses. So the Most High possesses he's able to create through the infinite mind, whereas man is able to create through the finite mind. Okay, so the Most High's creation is limitless, and that's why you're able to see everything around you. There's no two things that are alike, and the universe is infinite. It's never ending. And so, but man's creative ability through the mind is finite. Okay, because at some point, there is a cutoff, there is a cap off. Okay, there are limits and there are boundaries in terms of how we're able to create utilizing our mind. Obviously, we cannot create an entirely new universe, as an individual, as individuals, but we can create our reality in many ways through our thoughts. We do. It's not we can, we do. And so then it becomes a question of, are you consciously working alongside as being the co-creator to create your reality, or are you just passively allowing things to happen in your life and being a large part of creating the problems because your thought processes are too focused in on staying in survival mode or being in the ego or the carnal nature? And so this led me to where we are today, being in the age of Aquarius. The enemy has been very strategic for quite some time now, because once the enemy was able to get a hold of the wisdom of the universe, he just took it and ran with it. Okay, this particular group of people took it and ran with it. They didn't know what to do with them damn selves. They just knew that they was going to have to put the masses to sleep in order to steal this knowledge and use it to their advantage and to the disadvantage of the majority. Okay, now how did they do this? In the age of Pisces, that's generally like that's symbolic of the fish. Okay, the age of Pisces is symbolic of the fish, and that's the water sign. Okay, it's a water sign, and it is also it deals with your psychic abilities, your ability to be empathetic, compassionate. Okay, and it also is driven by like the energy of the collective. Okay, the awakening of the collective from a more spiritual aspect of things. So when we was in the age of Pisces, notice that Christ, whether you're speaking on Yeshua or the false identity stealer, Jesus, was actually born into existence. The ideology or the actual person was born into existence about a little bit over 2,000 years ago, which would place us at the mark where it was exactly at the very beginning of Pisces. Okay, at the very beginning of the age of Pisces, the sign symbolic of the fish. We just entered into the age of Aquarius, it's said around 2012. So that will be in alignment when it comes to the beginning of the age of Pisces is the beginning of the birth of the Christ. Okay. Now, as I was mentioning, the enemy was very well aware of astrology. Now, I'm not an astrologist. Okay. I'm not an astronomer. I'm not perfect in astronomy. All I do is I receive the nudges, I receive the uploads, and I receive the right questions to ask, and I put it together, and I'm able to gather a spiritual connection with what this means. Okay, so no, I can't tell you nothing about what's happening in a physical war today, who the U.S. is trying to fight, and what they doing it for. But if I was given some sort of spiritual nudge to look into it, then I would likely it's likely because I'm being given some sort of spiritual understanding, okay? Because everything that happens in the physical has a spiritual reflection. And so that's where I'm able to see the spiritual reflection of what's manifesting in the physical. That's where my gifts lie. So if you're more interested in things about what's happening on CNN, this is not the right channel for you. But either way, in the age of Pisces, the enemy was very well aware of the fact that he was going to have to take control in the spiritual realm. And being in the age of Pisces would awaken the masses. The collective would be awakened to their psychic abilities. They would be more drawn into going within to gain that deeper wisdom, okay? And to get a deeper understanding past the surface. That's what the Pisces energy does, okay? They go in, and it's actually in the tarot deck, it's the high priestess in the tarot deck. So it's that energy of going within, knowing the mysteries of the universe and all of these things. So the enemy understood that in the age of Pisces, if the majority awakened to the mysteries of the universe and understood this from a spiritual perspective, then they would not have been able to come into a position of power or to maintain the power that they had been able to gain at that time. Because the majority would be able to see the spiritual meaning of why they was doing these things. And if you can't control the mind, then you can't control the people. If you cannot control the collective consciousness, then you cannot control the people. So the enemy used the age of Pisces as a time to come in and incite fear, to play on the emotions of people, because the Pisces is symbolic of the water sign, and so water deals with emotions. So to play on the emotions of people, to incite fear, and to also bring forth a belief system, okay? To do work in terms of what the people believed as a collective. What you believe is literally that's your thoughts. That's something that is, a belief is like you're fixed on that, okay? When you believe something, you're generally fixed on that belief, okay? Unless some kind of way somebody is able to come in and shift that belief, okay? But they use this, and also during that time, keep in mind that these Romans, 2,000 years ago, they was also big on the crucifixion, okay? Crucifixion was used, it was a brutal form of execution, used as a means of producing social conformity. And so this was the time when Yeshua, who came in the age of Pisces, I'm talking about the Black Messiah, was born into the age of Pisces, which would have been is symbolic of the awakening of the people awakening to their spiritual capabilities and their spiritual gifts, and being able to make that connection between reality and spirituality, okay? And so this was highly intimidating for the Romans, the power structure at that time, okay? Now, I often talk about melanated people, and how this, this agenda is largely against the melanated man, woman, and child. And I've had some people in my comments say, well, do you not like Europeans? I tell you all the time, if the knowledge that I bring forward is, if you're sensitive to it for whatever reason, only you know why you're sensitive to it. Okay, I have a slight idea, but we're not going to go there. If you're sensitive to it, then this is not the channel for you, because I'm going to speak direct and I'm going to speak openly, okay? So come back for a message that's more catered to, something that you're comfortable with, or just find another channel that actually keeps you balanced, because I want everybody to stay balanced, okay? So the Romans were they understood that Yeshua, the Black Messiah, was coming in and brought a knowledge that showed his people their capabilities and what had been hidden from them, what had been stripped away from them through a belief system that was not in alignment with their nature. Okay. And so this was in direct opposition to what the Romans had brought forward and the way that they had established their power. And they knew that if the majority took on the beliefs and the wisdom that Christ, that Yeshua, the Black Messiah, possessed, that their empire would fall. Because once we take our power back in the spiritual realm, they lose their power in the physical realm. Okay? And so what they did was they had already been crucifying many people. This is something that these people have been doing since before Christ all the way up until today. The only difference is today they use they was hanging people on trees because Yeshua was hung on a tree. That's written in biblical text at least twice. Okay, their crucifixion was either to put you on a post or a tree. Now the cross, I feel, became symbolic through, it was like it was a symbol that was saying the masculine energy is now the dominant energy, but it was also to say that the crucifixion of a Black Messiah on a cross, which represents the masculine energy, the crucifixion of the Black Messiah on a cross would be the crucifixion of all messiahs from coming through the lineage and through the because the sperm has to go to the egg. So coming through the masculine energy to birth messiahs, it was a crucifixion and a sacrifice and a ritual done over that energy. Okay, so it was symbolic of something, and this is why they had to come right in. I think it was said about 100 years later is when they actually started writing their first accounts in terms of Jesus. Okay, not Yeshua, but Jesus. And I strongly feel that that was only done because there was a whole generation of people that they wanted to die off first before they could start coming forward with the lies and bringing forth this false identity. Okay, and so they waited for a time before they started bringing forth the false Christ after killing the true Messiah. But the true Messiah was killed in the age of Pisces as a symbol of crucifying and sacrificing the masculine energy of the melanated man, woman, and child, and keeping us from awakening and understanding the spiritual gifts and the powers that we possessed, because we are, of course, children of the Most High God. So then some might ask, well, does that mean that you're saying that the European or anybody else is not children of the Most High God? That's something that you got to take up with the Most High God. I'm not here to determine who is who, but I am telling you what is very clear and very plain, that there has been a direct agenda against the melanated man, woman, and child. So there must be some substance, some great substance behind that. Okay. And it goes well beyond the physical understanding of just establishing power. No, this is bigger than that. Okay. And I'll be able to get a little bit further into that as we go along. And so we also know that Pisces, the ruling planet of Pisces, is Neptune. Okay. Neptune generally deals with that energy of awakening your psychic abilities, awakening your spiritual gifts, your sixth sense. And it also deals with that energy of higher consciousness. So in the age of Pisces, we're talking about the energy had shifted to the point where people was going to awaken to their spiritual gifts. You had messiahs that was being born to come in to bring this knowledge to the people. You had this same Messiah came in and told them, greater works than me shall ye do, meaning as you continue to grow in your understanding, you're going to be shocked at how powerful your gifts are. This is the same person that was coming in that was healing the blind, okay, which that's also a symbolic of awakening you from sleep, okay? But there's so many different things that we would have been capable of doing in the age of Pisces had we not been trampled down through the Romans, who wanted to maintain a position of power, and they wanted to ensure that they would be able to carry this out into the next age. And so what they did was they brought in their religious belief systems. They brought in a false god, and they brought in fear tactics using crucifixion and various things in order to prevent people from standing in their truth, okay? And so, one thing about this time too is that these people was very well aware of certain, alchemy. They was aware of using magic, using rituals, doing spells, and a large part of their ritual back then, anytime you operating on the dark side of things, you have to use like something that has life in it in order to do a ritualistic sacrifice, okay? Because that's what these demons, they require that, okay? They require you to do something drastic in order to get what it is that you want. And so these people, they had already been operating in that energy, okay? These people was wicked as hell at that time, okay? And they still wicked as hell today. And so this is why Yeshua became the perfect ritualistic sacrifice for them, because Yeshua came in with the knowledge that they wanted to suppress. And so this is why they used him. And then from that point on, they begin to use wordplay. They begin to use spells, which spells is simply, a lot of people think that a spell means that you got, a voodoo doll and a big old witch's pot and a witch's hat on, okay? But a spell is an incantation is a spell, okay? A spell is enchantment. It is bewitchery. It is a formula that can be spoken, sung, or chanted, right? So it is a formula that can be spoken, sung, or chanted. And so these people was using spells not only through the manipulation of the biblical text, because they used a lot of the biblical text to insert things that would incite fear and inferiority into the melanated man, woman, and child, okay? And that is a spell. Anytime you have to open up the same text that is written to be of enlightenment for you, and instead you're receiving back something that is telling you that you are cursed, something that is telling you that you are inferior, and that you should obey your slave master, and that all of these different things, right? They inserted a whole lot and took out the majority that would actually awaken those who this specific text was written for and written by, okay? And they actually possess in their archives the true text. I don't know if the one that Biden just recently used in order to get sworn into office is a depiction of the true text, but that Bible was about this thick, okay? And he claims that it was passed down from one generation to the next. I want to know where you got it from and what's in there that's not in the typical Bible that's sold in, every store. That means that there's a whole lot of knowledge that is possessed in that book, literally thick. Go look it up. Look up the pictures when he got sworn in. You'll be able to see how huge that Bible was. And so there is a whole lot of information that has been withheld from the people. And I strongly feel a whole lot of things that was changed and actually inserted in order to blind and to put the people back to sleep in order to maintain a position of power. And so in the age of Pisces, this was the perfect opportunity for them to use the energy and the planetary alignments and the shifts that had happened in the, universal, the cosmic shifts that had happened to play on the minds of the people and to get them to be very focused in on a certain belief system. And they also understood the power of using the energy. Anytime you have the majority of black people or melanated people worshiping a God that looks nothing like them, then the people that actually look like that God that they worship benefits from that. I'm going to say that again. When you have a group of melanated people, especially for generations, that are worshiping a God that looks nothing like them, then the people who created that God largely benefit from the energy of that group of melanated people. And these people knew this. They understood that obviously where attention goes, energy flows, right? But we're not just talking about any type of energy. We're speaking on the melanated man, woman, and child who possess great abilities, okay? And they knew this, and that's why they killed off the Black Messiah. if they didn't understand this about us, then they would have allowed the man, they would have allowed him to do what he came here to do, because they said that he came and he wanted to get killed. He came here to get killed because for him, that was his sacrifice to ensure that we would be free. But really, I think it was their ritualistic sacrifice to ensure that they would be free from the atrocities that they had committed back then prior to that, and that they was going to commit in the future. They knew what their agenda was going to be in order to maintain their position of power for generations to come. And they knew that it was going to come with a price. And so that's why you always hear, they always say, well, he paid the price for our sins, because they knew that they was going to continue in sin. And so they was going to use a black man, a melanated man, one who was highly awakened to who he was, a king, and they took his energy and used it as a ritualistic sacrifice on their own behalf. And then they took his own people, had them completely turned the story around in terms of who he was. And so now you put Yeshua on the back burner, and you put Jesus at the forefront of society, and you have all of the people of Jesus, all of the people that he came in to enlighten and to break free from the chains of slavery back then in the age of Pisces. You put their attention, their focus, their emotions, their belief system, their fear towards a white, I'm not going to say white because ain't nobody white, a European depiction of a false god that would ultimately be passed down from one generation to the next generation to the next generation, that would keep these particular people in a position of power, because the ones who was giving it and feeding it its power had fell asleep to their own power. And that would be us. When we fall asleep, so does everything else. All of humanity falls asleep. When the melanated man, woman, and child is asleep to who we are, all of humanity falls asleep as a result of it, because we are directly connected to everything that exists. Cosmic energy, okay? Mother Earth, okay? We're children of the Most High God. We are connected to all that exists. And I'll tell you another thing that was brought to me in regards to how we are connected. Now, let's think about melanin right now, okay? We know that melanin, there's two things that exist that absorbs the UV rays of the sun. That's the ozone layer and melanated people. Now, back in the late 1970s, it was reported that the ozone layer has become significantly thinner by more than 60%. Back in the 1970s. Now, the ozone layer, if you don't have the ozone layer, let's think about a world without the ozone layer. A world without the ozone layer means that it's going to sterilize the entire planet. The sun is now going to be shining so bright. You don't have that layer that's there to be that protective barrier between, to absorb some of that the UV rays. So now what's left is the melanated man to do it. And that's it. Okay, no ozone layer. So the only thing that's left to absorb those UV rays would be the melanated man, woman, and child. Without the ozone layer, the sun is going to come in and it's going to sterilize everything. Okay, and so as a result, the people would then begin to have an increased amount of skin cancer without the ozone layer. But because the melanated man, woman, and child, we readily absorb the UV rays of the sunlight, the impact, I strongly feel, would be a lot less severe than it would be on those who lack a specific type of melanin, where they're able to take on that type of radiation, okay? And so therefore, we'll just say, you already know, those who lack the melanin will be sterilized off of the earth without the ozone layer. Now you see that it's thinning. It's thinning largely because the so-called powers that were have been using so many different tactics, because now in the age of Aquarius, they knew they had to prepare for the times that we're in now. The age of Aquarius, the Aquarius deals with it's an air sign, okay? And so their attack, their weapon of choice has been largely centered around doing things to the air, whether it's through chemtrails, whether it's through radioactive waves, whether it's through frequencies, disruptive frequencies. That's something that deals with the air, okay? And also weed, okay? I was also given the message that marijuana, now that they have legalized marijuana in most states across the U.S., trust and believe these people do everything for a good reason, okay? The weed that they're selling in these dispensaries is not the same weed that you were smoking back in 1970, 1980, okay? It's a different type of strand, and a large part of it is artificial in nature, okay? And that's what these people have been known to do when it comes to everything across the board. Everything that is anti-nature, okay? And so weed has also been added to my list in terms of those things that's been shown to me, because it is something that affects the thought processes and the way that you view life, the way that you view things. And so if that's the whole goal. The goal is to attack the it's a war on consciousness as well. That's another way in terms of the air sign, a war on your consciousness, your higher consciousness. And so they use weed, they make it readily available, but it's not the type of weed that's actually going to help you to awaken. It's the type of weed that's going to put you further into sleep, and to actually, I feel like what they're inserting into it as they create these fake versions, is they're actually inserting certain things into the genetic makeup of the weed, okay? I don't have all of the scientific facts behind it, but spiritually, I strongly sense that that's what this is catered towards. So be very careful if you are a weed smoker, what you're doing with that herb, how it makes you feel, what your thought process, what's happening with your thought processes, how you feel when you're absent that. Do you feel like you're down? Just think about that. Be very conscious of that. But like I was saying, now that we're in the age of Aquarius, they're using tactics against us that deals with the air. And so this is why the ozone layer is thinning, because these people, they've been so power hungry that they've been willing to do any and everything to work against the health of the people so that they can keep their pockets fat. So you go out and you spray all these chemtrails and all these chemicals into the air, and you're spraying all of these things into the earth, which is, everything is always recycling the cycle of life, between that which is above and that which is below. And you're, destroying the land, you're cutting down all the trees, and you're doing everything against nature. And it's having a direct impact on what's happening above us. So the ozone layer, not only that, but this was in the late 1970s when they realized that the ozone layer was beginning to thin. So that tells you that what took place prior to the 1970s? Oh, a whole lot of killing of melanated people was happening prior to the 1970s. And so as a direct result, anytime you go against the natural, the original people of the land, then you also go against the universal energy that protects the earth. Okay, because we're here, melanin, obviously we are here as a protective source for those who lack melanin. We are here, even if it's, even if you ain't doing it intentionally, me as a melanated woman is protecting the next woman who's not melanated, the European woman who lacks melanin, or who has very little or does not have the same type of melanin, because she cannot withstand the UV rays of the sunlight, whereas I absorb them. And so myself and all of those who are melanated, as well as the ozone layer, are here protecting as a protective barrier for those who lack the ability to protect themselves, because they was not structured in that way. Okay? And so you destroy the melanated man, woman, and child, and as a direct result, you destroy yourself. And this is what nature has been telling them. Not just the land, not just the earth, but those things that exist outside of the earth that is here to protect. Okay? And so this is why over 60%, is probably more now, over 60% of the ozone layer is now destroyed. You destroy the people and you destroy your protective barrier. Okay? And so now it's coming down to the point where these people are trying to come up with artificial suns. Well, what are we going to do now? We done effed ourselves up because we out here killing off all the people because we want to maintain power and because we can't stand the fact that we know how powerful they are. We know that they are the original people. We know that they protect us through this melanin that we just can't stand that they have. And we also know that that same melanin that they possess is, because it is connected to the sun, in the age of Aquarius, they're going to begin to awaken. Their DNA is going to begin to become activated. That dormant DNA that was sleeping, because like I told you, anytime the melanated man, woman, and child goes to sleep, so does everything else. So does everything else. And so that would also include that is internal, as within, so without. So your DNA has also, it ended up going to sleep. And so that's why they say over 98% of the DNA is junk DNA. But it's not. It's just inactive DNA because it was asleep, because we was asleep. And so, yes, it is actually a direct reflection. Over 98% of the DNA was asleep. And you could probably say over 98% of the melanated man, woman, and child was asleep as well. And so as within, so without. It was a direct reflection of the reality. Okay? And so as a result of that, the protective barrier of the ozone layer has thinned out. And so now they're looking for artificial suns. Bill Gates, who is largely invested in creating an artificial sun, which likely won't have, as much power as the natural sun, with the UV rays or whatever, because they want to make sure that if it came down to having to lose or having to sacrifice more of the melanated man, woman, and children, that they don't ultimately sacrifice themselves even further, because the earth is already working against them as a result of what they've done to us. Okay, the universe is working against them as a result of what they have done to us. And so now they're trying to reverse it by using certain resources and trying to come up with ways to create things to preserve themselves. But the fact of the matter is cause and effect. Okay, what you put out there is what you receive back. And because they came into this knowing who we were, and they did this against us anyway, then the repercussions is that much greater. But it was a sacrifice that they was willing to make in order to maintain a position of power. So they had their power, they had their, their little time, but that time is up. Okay. And it just is what it is. The earth is speaking, the Most High has spoken first. And so as a result, everything else is speaking. Okay. And so right now, what's happening is we have to be very cognizant of the thoughts that we are having. Okay. Because in the age of Aquarius, the attack is on the mind. Okay. In the age of Pisces, that was the year of the Lord. The age of Pisces was the year of the Lord. And so we know that Lord, they say Lord, that you can use Lord in many different contexts. Lord is someone or something having power, authority, or influence. So a lot of times, you remember when you would watch those, I don't even know how you describe the movies, but they'll say, my Lord, my Lord, because they called anybody that was in a position of authority, a higher level of authority, as a Lord. And so they say this was the year of the Lord. They wanted you to believe that it was the year of Jesus. It was the year, Pisces, the age of Pisces was the time of Jesus, where he would come in and save his people from their sins. Jesus's people is the European man, woman, and child, because that's who they depicted him as. Jesus, Caesar Borgia, who they used as the model to create the pictures of Jesus. It is a European-faced, illusionary, fictional God, G-O-D, it's lowercase G-O-D, that they created, and they used fear tactics and a lot of violence against us to, beat out of us the remembrance of who we are. They took extreme measures, spellwork, like I said, ritualistic sacrifice of the true Yeshua, the true Messiah, and having us to also, another way that they did this was they used our energy of emotions. Because one thing about melanated people is that, and I talked about this in the ritualistic sacrifice of Christ, I got more in depth about that. But when it comes to spelling, that's another way of casting spells, is when you're singing hymns towards a specific um towards a specific God or deity, okay? And so when you pair that with the emotions of the melanated man and woman, especially back then when they first gave us the biblical text that had been rewritten and switched all the way up, um, I'm looking something up here because I wanted to go over a hymn. I wish I would have saved that in here. But there was a hymn that a previous slave, I called, the melanated man, woman, and child that was in so-called slavery, we were kidnapped, okay? So someone who was kidnapped who had written a hymn that, dang, I wish I sent that to myself, had written a hymn that was being sung to the false illusionary Christ, okay, to Jesus. And this was something that those who were kidnapped would sing together. And of course they was highly emotional. I think it is Swing Low. Is it Swing Low, Sweet Chariot? It might have been a different one. I think it was a different one. Yeah, it wasn't that one. It was a different hymn. But this hymn, it was speaking on coming in. Oh, Steal Away. Let me look that up real quick. That's what it's called. Steal Away. Let me tell y'all what these lyrics say. So this one says, steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away home. I haven't got long to stay here. Steal away, steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away, steal home. Okay? Now, and then it goes on to say, it's so much here, but what stood out the most is that you're saying steal away. What is Jesus, this false depiction of Christ? What is this white European? What is this European God stealing away? And you're singing this with emotion, okay? And, all of this compassion for this fictional character. Steal away. What they were stealing away was your identity. What they were stealing away was your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. What they were stealing away was your power, your strength, okay? Your ability to break yourself free from the chains. And so when you're singing this, that's a spell. You putting that energy out there into the universe because, again, your thoughts create things. And that's why when I first began this message and I was speaking on the man with the bike, his reality was what he made it until he began to accept other people's reality of what his life should have been or what he should have been doing in terms of his own freedom, whether he should have a car or a bike. And so that's what these people did. They used that tactic because they understood that the mind is powerful, especially that of the melanated man, woman, and child who was put here as a protective barrier and a protective covering for the earth itself. And for those, they just so happen to benefit from the protective nature that we possess. Okay? And so now in the age of Aquarius, the enemy has a plan to come in and steal away all that you have come into understanding and knowing, all of the spiritual wisdom that you have gathered and gained. The enemy has a plan. And so it's very important that we recognize that as long as we operate as a group consciousness, what we do in the spiritual realm is far greater than anything that the enemy can plan to do in the physical, because the enemy has no position in the spiritual realm until we give him that position. And we did in the age of Pisces. Now that we are here in the age of Aquarius, those who are supposed to be awakening are currently doing so, or you already are awakened. Some people are still wiping the crust out of their eyes, but they're still in the awakening process. And so as a group consciousness, when we take back our authority in the spiritual realm, the enemy doesn't stand a chance. And so this is why I'm encouraging you to continue down your path. Know that your thoughts create things. And as you are creating, don't just center your focus in on creating in the material realm, although that's a large part of your human experience. But just know that in order to bring this current structure down, we have to be centering our focus in on establishing and taking back our power in the spiritual realm. Now, this is not about using it in an abusive way. You have to use it from a space of integrity before it can actually even work, because we are directly connected to the universe itself. And so if the melanated man, woman, and child abuses their spiritual powers, it doesn't just affect the so-called powers that were. It's going to affect us, and it's going to affect every part of existence, because that's how much of a connection we have. Case in point, how the ozone layer began to thin as a result of them thinning out our race of people, okay, by killing us off. And so understand that the power that we possess is not something to be played with, and is not something to be taken lightly, and it's only to be used from a space of love and integrity. But we are establishing that judgment and righteous judgment come over the heads of our enemies, because they got some paying up to do. That's just a fact, okay? And so that's how you balance out the scales, okay, in all ways. As above, so below, as within, so without. We got to balance this whole thing out, because it's been off balance. And so be very cognizant of that. Be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of what you're putting into your body. Be aware of what you are taking in, not just through your vision, through your eyes, but through your mouth, through your ears, okay, and through your internal, through your thought process. And we're going to shift this thing together. So that's what I got for you all. I have a whole lot more stuff written here that, most of this I just said off the top of my head, okay? But you see all this stuff I got written down here. I didn't even get through half of the stuff that I got written down. So I don't know if I'm going to have to come back on here and talk about this again. But I hope that you all was able to gain something from this. I love you all. If you want a private reading from me, you can always email me. I do charge for my private readings. I thank you all for the likes and the subscribes and the donations. And I'll talk to you all next time.